Hello people who cannot sit at home, thank you so much for joining me. So I think all of my videos are pretty exciting, I really truly do. But this could be arguably the most interesting thing I've done in Ontario. So the name of this place is Diefenbunker, and it is located not too far from Ottawa, so it is a bit of a drive if you are in Toronto. But after I show you all of the cool things that we saw, I think the 4-hour drive will not be a problem. And you can definitely make a weekend trip out of this so that if you stay somewhere closer to Ottawa. I'm gonna also list a number of really cool destinations that we encountered on the way, and a couple of more that we didn't even have the time to do because we just did this in a day trip. But I think there's so much to do in that area, and the bunker itself is fascinating. And before we head into this video, I want to tell you about my lovely Ontario road trip journal, Weekend Getaways. It is the weekend getaways that you can do all around Ontario. I also have just a regular day trip getaways. These are spring and summer, and also have the fall winter day trip book, and also a fun art trip book if you're into arts. So without further ado, let's head right into this video. Because there's so much exciting information and I'm afraid of forgetting anything, I'm gonna just list it all over here. Pause it if you would like to read it on your own. Commissioned by Prime Minister John Diefenbunker in 1959, and it was built in 1961. The purpose of the bunker was to house key members of the government and military in the event of a nuclear attack on Canada. The bunker is 100,000 square feet and over 4 levels, so 4 floors. Built to withstand a 5 megaton nuclear blast from 1.8 kilometers away. And lastly, decommissioned in 1994 and became a museum in 1997. Even though you can walk in, we did pre-book our tour to make sure that we have space when we arrive. So this was the 2 p.m. tour. They have it at different times and at different days. This tour started outside because he showed us the exits of the outside. But then after about maybe 15-20 minutes, we went inside. So over here is kind of the main hallway. And what was interesting about the hallway is that this bomb is a replica of the Hiroshima bomb that was used. So it was definitely interesting to see. So here we go down the tunnel. It was fairly long, but definitely already very interesting. Gets you kind of into the feel of this whole space. So here we are coming up to the first doors of the entry. And once you pass through the doors, you would probably see somebody from the army sitting over there. And over here I'm showing you the 4 floors, definitely tons to do and see over here. Our tour will take us through all of the 4 floors, not absolutely everything, but like the highlights. Next we're going to the decontamination area. So if the person suspects that they might have been exposed to the radiation, if there is an actual attack, they would go through these series of walk-ins. And first it would be a shower. As I understand, this is the shower. As I understand, this is where you take the shower in your clothes. Then you go into this hallway, you strip down to absolutely nothing, and in that little vent you throw away your clothes, which will be later disposed by somebody in hazmat. And then you take a second shower just with your, with no clothes on. And at the end of it, there's a Geiger meter, and it measures you essentially if you have been exposed or not. The next section we arrived was sort of like a medical kind of area. If you actually do have radiation on you, this is where you would quarantine yourself essentially, and well, with other people too that have been also exposed. And over here is the medical room. As I understood, this would be where they would operate if needed. They had lots of ability to do pretty much any surgery other than the heart surgery and brain surgery, which is actually very impressive for a place that is not a hospital. Confinement and hospital overflow. This was interesting to see because this is, essentially if anybody has any mental issues, they would be confined in here, or if, they're doing something criminal. Up next we have dentist. Not really sure what this room was for, but it was very interesting and definitely very vintage. Here we are seeing the actual mock-up of this whole bunker, so all of the 4 levels, where you can essentially see it all together and how it is laid out. And here are some elements of what this bunker was built out of. Just look at the size of that rebar.
So this was the main receiver room for the complex. I said before, this site was the receiver site. You've got banks of receivers over here, again being fed by antennas in Alma. In this corner over here, you've got a backup transmitter.
So as I understood correctly, all of those red dots are kind of stations that monitor if there is attack or any planes from the Russian side. Now over here, we're going into the women's kind of area where they would sleep. So this would be, as I understand, government employees that are women. They had bunk beds, but they would all be together, and really nice uniforms.
2.5 gigabytes in one of those machines. By the way, I've got 65 of them.
I'm not sure if you heard this over there, but 2.5 gigabytes in those machines, but he has 65 on his phone. Ridiculous how the technology has progressed. These rolls are actually the backups, so they didn't have the cloud back then, so these are all of the backups of those machines. So these tools are really fascinating. This is to be used in case that there is a breach, in terms of maybe a spy got in or something like that. So you are to take those hammers and destroy the computers. So as I understand, this is the main boardroom where all of the government officials would get together and the prime minister would get together and discuss the situation at hand. And this, I think, is the room where all of the calls are taking place and all of the communication is happening. Also very interesting. Very close to that room, there is a handheld shredder. I thought that was so cool. Right next to the typewriters. So in this room, there is a separate kind of people. These guys are responsible for the fallout danger area, which is essentially the area that this blast is going to be impacting. And if you notice over here, there are vertical stripes and all of the walls are like really beigey colors. So the vertical stripes are there to make it seem like the building is taller, more spacious, and the light colors, same thing, just to relax people as much as possible and make it also seem a little more spacious. And believe it or not, this is the room for the Prime Minister. This room was also very fascinating. This is essentially CBC room, and any kind of needed communication can be broadcasted onto the CBC networks pretty much right away. And over here is what it would play in case of a nuclear bomb attack.
Canadian emergency broadcasting says sirens are again sounding, or has sounded.
Turns out it's impossible to hear when it's re-recorded, but essentially it's saying that there has been attack and what to do and how to protect yourself. Here's the main cafeteria, and up next we're gonna go to a little snack room.
I like cherry blossom. Where are you? My mom was cute.
7-Up still in, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Pringles? They had Pringles back then?
Little round bowls.
And there was even a laminated flyer from that time where Nike shoes were like $12, which was really cool. So over here we're in the storage area. This is the freezer. They would always have 30 days worth of food for at any time when the bunker was functional. And also this was a morgue because it was a colder space. So over here's a body bag that, you know, you could put a person in. Over here we're heading to the vault. As I understood, a vault would be needed in the case of an attack because a lot of gold would go in there to, I guess, for protection purposes. And it was very impressive, huge door, very thick. There's another door, the circular one, I think it's for some kind of pressure because you need to open that first and then you can open the big door. And here's the space inside, gorgeous space, very, very impressive. And that was the end of the tour. You can definitely just do the tour and then do even more walking around and reading more about things. But this was already about an hour and a half, if not more, and we loved it. And I truly think that the tour was so in-depth that we learned so much about it. It was excellent. So in terms of other spots that are in the area, after the tour we went to this lovely restaurant. This is called On the Rocks. It's located in Calabugie, which is I think about half an hour from the bunker. And it's best to pre-book because it does get busy. It's located on a resort, but the restaurant's actually not affiliated with the resort. Definitely gorgeous inside. Just look at this kind of rock view, but we wanted to be seated outside. We actually had like a coverage so it wasn't too hot. And yeah, the view is right onto the lake. There were people kayaking. View overall is just vast and beautiful. If you're in that area, you need to go to this restaurant. I got a mojito. Over here is me enjoying it. There were not a lot of people when we arrived, and we arrived at 5 o'clock, but at about 6 o'clock, pretty much every seat was already taken. And also, if I'm correct, these guys are only open, their hours are only from like 5 in the evening to about 10 or 11. Please check online. And here's our gorgeous food arriving. I love the presentation. I had a bunch of flowers in it. My boyfriend had a steak and fries with aioli. He loved it, devoured it. I devoured my fish as well. I don't remember what fish it was, but it was amazing. The mustardy sauce was excellent. And again, I was just in love with the view. But let me tell you about a few other really cool places in the area that you might want to check out. On our way to the bunker, we actually went to the White House perennials, and over here is some footage from that. It is a really beautiful garden. I did not expect it to be this beautiful. It's literally like a garden, but they also sell all of their flowers that they grow here in the garden. So I highly recommend, if you're into gardening or if you're just into walking in a beautiful park, to check it out. Another place that I really wanted to stop over, but we didn't have time, is the Carlton place. We drove through it, so here's how it looks like. This is just us driving through it because we didn't have the time to stop over, hence why I suggest doing this trip as a overnight, so that you stay somewhere in this area and you enjoy the Carlton place. They have a number of things. For example, they have the Carlton Place Community Labyrinth. They also have the Mississippi River Walk Trail, which is right through the center of the town. It's kind of a loop, well, not a loop, but it's kind of all along the river. I hear that it's really pretty. I wanted to do that. Again, didn't have time, but I highly suggest you do this. The Waterfront Gastropub looks amazing. It has the view onto that gorgeous looking castle, and the reviews of the pub are great. So you just get to sit there and look at the beautiful view. We did actually end up going to the Maverick Donuts. Here's what they had. We got 4 donuts, 2 for each of us. I got the Oreo Nirvana, we got the 2 fritters and a Boston cream. Everything was excellent. Oreo Nirvana was amazing. My favorite was probably still blueberry fritter, though Oreo Nirvana was amazing too. So get any of them. I'm sure these guys I'm sure all of the donuts in that place are great. Another place we didn't stop over is the Carp Custom Creamery. This is ice cream place, looks amazing, great reviews. So if you're into ice cream, highly recommend. They're also kind of in the area of the Carlton place. And 2 Thai Ladies food truck, really good reviews. Definitely a great stop if you're on the go. So I hope you enjoyed this video and our visit to Bunker, and I hope it inspires you to go. I think it's an amazing part of Canadian history, and I am very thankful to have seen this. Please subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you next time. Bye.